All right, welcome in, guys. Farzin Vasugian here with you for another episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. It is a Tuesday night. Appreciate you guys being with me here. We are going nonstop this week. A lot of podcasts coming your way, a lot of live streams. Yesterday we did a Chiefs Zone podcast. Today we're doing another one. Tomorrow, Farzcast, Melody and I are going to be back at it. The first Farzcast of 2025. So make sure you guys tune into that tomorrow night. That'll be at 8:30 Central Time. And then Thursday, I'll be back again for the Chiefs Zone podcast. We will break down and preview the game between the Chiefs and the Texans. And, of course, we'll have the Red Friday live chat sometime early Friday evening. Not going to be as late as it usually is. And then, of course, Saturday, pregame live chat, halftime live stream, postgame, all of that stuff. So a lot coming your way. And why not? It's a playoffs. We got to go all out with all the podcasts, all the live streams. So hopefully you guys enjoy all of that coming your way here. Zach Senga is going to be joining me in just a moment. We'll talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and their game against the Houston Texans this Saturday. Yes, it is a Saturday, not a Sunday. So make sure you guys have that correct on your calendars. I'm going to talk about some of the news today coming out of Arrowhead. And also, the Pro Football Hall of Fame is going to be considering a former Chief to get in. It's a player who's been left out for a very long time, and this year he's actually getting some attention. And there are some people out there who are making a case for him, saying that he should get in. We'll talk about all of that and more here on this episode of the Chiefs Zone podcast. I want to let you know this podcast is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is where I go to for all of my sports ticketing needs. Obviously, we have the NFL playoffs. We've got the Chiefs and Texans on Saturday. So if you want to go check out some Chiefs playoff action, go to SeatGeek.com, get your tickets from there. And if you're a new customer, use my promo code Farzin and you will save $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Get your tickets at SeatGeek.com, and at checkout, new customers can put in my promo code Farzin and save $20 off their first purchase from SeatGeek. I see you guys in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Let's go ahead and bring in Zach Steggin. Zach, I hope you had a great Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We are in the year 2025 and looking to three-peat. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great, man. We're finally, here in the playoffs, and it's incredibly exciting. The fact that we're actually, here ready for three-peat season, right?
Yes, indeed. In our three-peat era, I guess
I guess so. Yeah.
Call it. How are you feeling, man? I mean, this was kind of a weird year. 15 wins, and a lot of injuries. I'll tell you right now, the big news coming out of Arrowhead is that every player practiced today. McCole Hardman was the only player limited, who is still on IR, by the way. And, that clinching the number one seed before week 18 was huge. That 24-day break, that's doing wonders right now for the Chiefs, because everybody practiced today, including Chris Jones, Jalen Watson, DJ Humphries, Jawan Taylor, Shamari Connor, guys who have been Isaiah Pacheco, guys who've been dealing with injuries lately. How are you feeling about all of that?
I'm feeling pretty great, but frankly, I think I'm just laughing at the fact it's like, wow, we could have seen the Bills play the Bengals if we had just been willing to have more on our injury report. So how deeply inconsiderate of us. Yes. All jokes aside, though, like, I'm very glad to hear that our guys are in good health, because that's the whole point of why we went through the gamut that we did, and why we rested the guys when we did. It's good to hear that we should be playing with a full deck, which is, I think, we didn't even do that in week one. So it's good to hear.
Yeah, that was my thing. When I saw the schedule come out, the 3 games in 11 days is what everybody was talking about. I said, look, if you can just fight through it, battle through it, because every team is going to be tired. I remember watching a documentary, an NBA documentary on, I think it was Chauncey Billups, and he said that the best advice he ever got from his mom was, if you're tired, keep going, because the guy on the other side of you is just as tired. And that's really how it is in all sports. In December, everyone's gassed out. Maybe not gassed out is the right term, but everyone's tired at that point in the season. And the Chiefs found a way to push through. And I said, if they can get that number 1 seed in week 17, they have that really nice, kind of like a mini bye, like almost like you're coming off a Thursday night football game, which the Chiefs got it. They didn't have to play in week 18, and obviously not the wild card. It's and look at last year. The Chiefs had the self-imposed bye, right? Because They were locked into the number 3 seed. So Travis Kelce, Mahomes, everyone was off except for Chris Jones because he wanted to get the incentive bonus. And I think that really helped Travis Kelce a lot. You saw what he did last year in the playoffs. I'm expecting another big postseason from Travis Kelce.
Yeah, we're going to need him too, frankly. I mean, I think that, look, he's not getting any younger. But at the same time, he is the kind of guy who has always stepped up when it's mattered most. And I think that, that's exactly what we're going to see here. Like, he's and the other piece of that gives me full confidence in, Travis is the fact that we have enough other weapons back. D-Hop has been a great addition to the team, but also having Hollywood Brown healthy, particularly having Hollywood healthy, I think is going to help a lot just because he gives us a different element to that offense. You do have to watch, for Mahomes being able to beat you down the field because, look, that right arm didn't go anywhere. We just have, been the most, I think more defenses have been selling out to keep us from beating them over the top. But now with Hollywood, all right, sweet, pick your poison underneath. You got D-Hop and Travis Kelce there working the middle. Good luck. Oh, and a running game for just for fun.
Yeah. What's really interesting to me is, obviously the injuries and all of that, you never wanted all of those things to happen. If Rice and Hollywood stayed healthy all year, DeAndre Hopkins probably would not be a Chief. But there is kind of one weird advantage to all of this, to Hollywood not playing all year and Hopkins. He's played well for the Chiefs, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't played a lot because he's still learning the offense and the playbook as the season's been going along. Because if you're the Texans and you're trying to restudy a team that you just played 3 to 4 weeks ago, you realize that Hollywood Brown had not played much for the Chiefs this year, so there's not much on film to really study off that. DeAndre Hopkins, as good as he's been limited in his snaps with the Chiefs this year, so there's not enough to really go off on the tape there. I think it's kind of a weird way. That really does set up the Chiefs, kind of get the advantage on that one there because the Texans are not going to know exactly what to do. You're going to have to go back to maybe Hollywood's time with the Cardinals to really get a good grasp of what he can or cannot do.
Well, yeah, that's the other piece is like even in the preseason, I don't remember the exact stat, but I'm pretty sure, wasn't it literally his first catch that he got hurt on?
Yeah. The first snap. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what I thought, but I didn't want to, misquote it there. But with that being the case, it's not like there's, any film for there was something they were building in all off season and then first preseason game, boom, there goes, I think they were saying 30% of the playbook or something that just got kind of shot away. And so conveniently, that means that now it's just, been under wraps all season. And, it'll be ready to come out just in time for the postseason, which is, pretty good place to be, if you ask me.
Yeah. Cause he was heavily involved with all of the, he established a good rapport with Mahomes in OTAs, training camp, all of that stuff. I'm really, really glad he played in the 2 regular season games because if his first game back was going to be this playoff game, I would have been like, I don't know.
It's a pretty tough time to come back.
Yeah.
You just worry about rust at that point. Whereas, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's still a level of it, but not nearly to the same degree as it would be if he was just coming off of the injury in the playoffs. You can't count on that the same way.
Well, not that I disagree with you, but that's not my first concern. My first concern would have been, okay, you and Mahomes don't really have that on-field chemistry. And I'm not, listen, I know I just mentioned OTAs and training camp, all of that, but in a game, it's so different. So I'm glad they got those 2 regular season games. That way they can kind of get a feel for each other on the field and just kind of know where to expect the pass, where to expect this receiver to be, that kind of thing, because that's pretty important too.
Oh, without a doubt. And I do think they've probably been doing a good bit of work here in the not obviously too much crazy physical stuff because everybody's on the mend, but I'm sure that I'm sure the chemistry will be rolling effectively come Saturday.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this game here. And I know a lot of people out there are saying, well, the Chiefs just beat the Texans a few weeks ago, so why would it be any different? Every game is a different game. I still remember when in 2013, and I know it's a much different team we're talking about, the Chiefs got blown out by the Indianapolis Colts, and then 2 weeks later, they're playing them in the wild card game, put up 44 points. Unfortunately, did not end the way any of us wanted it to end. But my point is, it was a much different football game than what it looked like a couple of weeks ago. So Houston and DeMeco Ryans, I think, is doing a phenomenal job, especially the way he's turned that Texans team around. Because I still remember, man, I know you do as well. A couple of years ago, people were saying, "Why would you go to Houston? That place is a disaster." Well, Someone
It
had to
was.
go, and Ryan's took that, and he's really done a good job. And CJ Stroud, maybe not the best second season for him, but he won a playoff game at the end of that. More playoff wins than Herbert ultimately.
Yeah.
So
And
they're coming into this game looking to come up with a whole new game plan there. But Andy Reid's going to expect that as well.
without a doubt, I do think that if there's any level of concern from me, it is the fact that look, they're playing with house money, right? No one expected them to even beat the Chargers, or at least
No.
I don't think very many did.
A lot of people said the Chargers would be playing the Chiefs in the division round. Yeah.
And I was one of them. That's absolutely where my money would have gone. But Herbert tossed more picks in a game than he did, in the entire rest of the season. So, hey, it's just how it goes. Playoffs are playoffs. And so I do think those guys will be playing, free with house money. And hopefully the Chiefs are, coming out, just ready to take care of business. And, I think, again, I like our chances. We proved that if there was one piece of the Texans team that makes me the most nervous, it is guys like Will Anderson in that defensive front. They cause a lot of trouble. I mean, we saw what they did on Saturday, and that's against a good Chargers offensive line.
Yeah.
And I think that that is a bona fide concern. But we also proved when we played them last, we were playing with Joe Tooney slid out to left tackle against Will Anderson, who is, again, Will Anderson still, in his sophomore year, but still, he's very much a up-and-coming stud pass rusher in the league. And I'm sure that he'll have his moments, but I'm just less worried for that now. I mean, we've got two decent choices, I think, for left tackle. Either DJ Humphries is going to be healthy and he'll be an upgrade, and then Tooney will be back to the stud left guard that he is, or we'll do what we did last time with these guys and slide Tooney out. Life's good.
So, look, I bought into the DJ Humphries hype. I understand he was on the shelf for almost all of 2024. I know he just missed a couple of games. But the 2 games he's played in, he hasn't done very well. I know Andy Reid said today that he liked what he saw from Humphries in the Broncos game.
It wasn't all bad. Some of it was, don't get me wrong, there were plenty of reps for the entirety of that offensive line. I feel bad for Carson Wentz just for the way that one went down, where it's like, you get one audition to prove that you still got it, but that's your offensive line. It's just like, man, grab some turnstiles from the gates and he'll have an easier time of it. But just kind of how it works, I guess. But no, I thought that Humphries showed, it looked like to me a guy who was knocking some rust off, and not just the rust of being down with injury for a full year, but also he just started to clear some of that off. The first game he played for us re-aggravated the injury, but he made it through the full game this time, and that's encouraging.
Yeah, we'll find out during pregame warm-up. Yeah, we'll see in pregame warm-ups how they line up. However they line up in pregame warm-ups, because Andy Reid's not going to answer it on Thursday, which is going to be the last day of practice. Yeah, I agree. Last day of practice, and also the last media availability. But during pregame warm-ups, however they line up, that is 100% going to be the starting lineup for the game. So we'll learn about it in about an hour before the game. I'll give my score prediction on Thursday. I did put out my picks for the divisional round. I did say the Chiefs would win this game. Do you got a score yet for Saturday, though?
31-20.
Okay. I like it. That 31. Yeah. Was that the Super Bowl score against the 49ers, 31-20?
No, that would have been, I think, 31-24 or something, because overtime touchdown. So it'd be a
No. I'm talking about the first Super Bowl between the Chiefs and 49ers. 31-20.
I don't know.
You know what the problem is?
I used to be good at this, but I just have too many other, distractions running through my head.
The problem is the Chiefs have been to too many Super Bowls, because I've said this
now we can't keep them straight anymore.
I was in my closet once. I was in my closet once grabbing a Super Bowl shirt, and I had to look at it. I'm like, which one is this from? We're at that point now. We are right. We've hit that level of we can't keep track of the Super Bowls. That's a good thing.
We've been fans since the playoffs used to mean just getting punched in the gut in creative ways by the football gods. Whether it was Marcus Mariota throwing a touchdown to himself, or a game where neither team punts and we still lose, or any number of sad ways to lose a football game. Also, finally got pulled up. You're right, 31-20 was indeed the first time we beat the Niners. Nice call.
All right.
No, I was thinking, our offense is, let's be honest, they hear everything. they pretend they don't. No, they hear every word. I'm
Travis
sure their
Kelce even
bulletin board
acknowledges
is
it.
full. Exactly. And people are like, oh well, the Chiefs have never scored over 31 points this season. That offense just isn't, and I mean, I get it. I do understand where they're coming from, but also they haven't needed to score that many points.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
31 just seems like a good, round number, good round offensive performance. They'll kick a field goal here or there, but I think, it'll be a pretty solid day for the boys.
I know you were just alluding to this, like getting to the playoffs. That used to mean a lot. Like we would have a parade for that in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I'm being facetious, but you know what I mean. Here's my thing. I know this is not the standard, but you have to acknowledge the fact that if the Chiefs win, and I think they will on Saturday, the Chiefs will have reached the AFC Championship game all 7 years, 7 in a row with Patrick Mahomes. Like that is, I know we don't use the word Final Four in the NFL, but if you will, the Chiefs will have reached the Final Four all 7 years with Patrick Mahomes. That is incredibly, like, reaching the Final Four is difficult. Winning is difficult. 2 in a row is difficult. Obviously, 3 in a row has ever been done. The Chiefs are close to doing that. But man, to get to the Final Four 7 years in a row, hosting all of them except for one, that is insanely really difficult.
It is genuinely like, crazy to think about because, like, I mean, I feel like as much as I feel like as we've been going through this, I've been trying to remind myself not to take it for granted. The more it happens, you just kind of do. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. You just, it's not like you go numb to the regular season or anything, but at the same time, it changes your perspective and you're just focused on, well, yeah, the games are going to absolutely, it's life or death come January. But until then, like, we'll just keep right. I mean, last year, I think especially proved it for me. Like, the way that team, managed to win a Super Bowl, in the number of times where I was, up in arms after a game because, of one frustrating loss or another. And here we are, 15-2, feels more like 15-1 because the, extra loss there at the end, we all, I mean, yes, it counts as a loss, but like, it doesn't feel as much like a loss.
Really?
Like, I mean, it does in the, it does on the stat sheet, it does on the record books, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like that because it's not like we were playing full strength, It's just one of those things. And that's, it's frustrating, but I actually no, it's not frustrating at all. It's one of the greatest things ever is the fact that like we don't have to think about the regular season the same way. Like, we just have that guy now.
I was paying attention to some of the news that was coming about the NFL today, and I saw the Texans cut Deontay Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm just like, what happened to this guy? Like, how did he was one of the most coveted receivers during the season to trade with the Panthers, and now it's like nobody wants him. Literally, no one wants him,
and I can't figure out why. I mean, I have some suspicions. Normally, like when you have guys that, it's not a great look when you get traded to a playoff team, the Ravens, and you just don't do a whole lot. I mean, the Ravens are one of those organizations that I would liken it to, almost like the Steelers, where like, that's a coach who doesn't take much shit. That's just a fact. I mean, I guess the Steelers is really not a great example because he does seem to take more of it. It's fascinating how he seems to equal parts give off the energy of a coach who takes no shit, and yet he has George Pickens. So make that make sense. But it is what it is. And I don't know what the story is with Deontay Johnson. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, there's a lot we don't know for sure. But the fact that 2 playoff teams, one of them, while in the playoffs, got rid of him. Yeah, dude, I got a lot of questions.
So many questions. And like, frankly, those are questions where like you almost feel bad for his agent. Where you're like, man, that guy has the tough job this offseason. He thought he had a payday locked in, and now he's just like, man, it's like, the only guy matter is Sam Darnold's agent, but that's a whole different story.
Well, that situation could be worse.
Totally.
But that's
still
just
quarterback money.
yeah. Well, that's true. Yes, a lot of money. Before you get out of here, Zach, I do want to ask you about the Hall of Fame coming up. I follow John McClain. He's been covering the NFL for a very long time. I've been on Jody Mack's radio show on Infinity Sports Radio. It used to be called CBS Sports Radio, and I listen to him from time to time. And I was listening over the weekend, and John McClain, who is a Hall of Fame voter, and in these Hall of Fame, I remember the late Therese Paylor. He there was a video of him making a case in front of other voters about Tony Gonzalez. So these writers, they'll meet the week of the Super Bowl. And they'll discuss, who should be in and why, and try to build a case for them. Listen, every year there are always going to be great players who get left out. It's impossible to get everyone in. All of the guys who are finalists, they're worthy of getting in. One player who has been omitted from the Chiefs franchise for a very, very long time is Jim Tyrer. And I think a lot of people know the story. For those who don't, very similar to what happened in the Javon Belcher situation, double murder, homicide. That kind of situation. And a lot of his teammates were very shocked by all of that. And that's been a big reason why Tyrer has not been named or voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I don't know why, but this season of all seasons, more recently, his name has kind of received some traction. And John McClain said that there are going to be two guys that the voters are going to be debating on the most. One is going to be Eli Manning, and the other one's going to be Jim Tyrer. And the thing about Jim Tyrer is, from John McClain's standpoint, is that this is somebody that, yes, he did some bad off the field, but the Hall of Fame, the honor, is about what he did on the field. And I know what a lot of people are going to say. What about O.J. Simpson? Well, his incident all happened after he got in, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he is in, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. So, I don't know. We are in a time in 2025 where, these kinds of things with violence, domestic violence, it's a big deal now than it's ever been before. So I don't know how the voters are going to view this. I don't know how the NFL wants to view this. Here's another thing, Zach. Let's say he gets in. Are the Chiefs going to promote that? Because whenever like Tony Gonzalez, Derek Thomas, Will Shields, when all of those guys got in, the Chiefs wanted to definitely make note of that on their social media and honor them in a regular season game the following season, which is understandable. But would they want to do anything like that for Jim Tyrer? That's like my biggest thought, my biggest question when thinking about all of this. When you hear all of that, what do you think of the most when you hear about this debate about Tyrer possibly getting into the Hall of Fame?
I mean, I think it's a tough place to be, but I also think that ultimately, I don't know the exact thresholds that it would take. I remember reading a story not too long ago. I want to say it's like 40 of 49 or something that they have to vote him in. But honestly, man, like I don't see him getting in, regardless of whether or not he should. Because frankly, I think that it seems the main argument for him getting in is, look, this wasn't who he was. This is CTE, that led to a lot of this. And, considering that he did play in the era where, he was a left tackle in the early years of the NFL. Like, we don't know for sure, but like, it's not a ridiculous assumption to assume that he has CTE. Or had CTE, and that impacted, kind of Junior Seau style, right? I hate that we have just a lot of different players that we can refer to at this point that had that sort of thing happen. But it's something that we've come to understand a bit more. But I think that there's two, this kind of sits at the intersection of two things that the NFL would rather not have to talk about, which is to say it doesn't have the grandest record on domestic violence. It's been getting better, but not necessarily great. You usually hear of a couple players a year who are doing something off the field they shouldn't be doing. And, to a level I can empathize in, these are guys that we tell to, be as aggressive as humanly possible and then just turn it off. Like, I can imagine that that's not the easiest task in the world. So I can empathize with them a little bit, but at the same time, ultimately you've got the domestic violence piece and the CTE piece. Neither of those are things the league wants to be talking about. Those are two things that the league would much rather we just didn't have to talk about, because it's the dirty underside of the sport that we all love watching. And so I think for those reasons, you know, all it takes is I think 10 of these 50 writers or something to say no, not this one. And I think that
Yeah.
there'll be enough of those. That's my gut.
The one example I can think of would be in pro wrestling, where Chris Benoit, who one of the best wrestlers of all time. I mean, maybe not like top 5 or top 10, but
Mhm.
a wrestler who had a decorated career in the industry. He did kind of something similar to what Joanne Belcher did. And when word got out about the evidence and what he had allegedly done, WWE just completely removed his name, his face, his image, everything from their website. Now, over the years, because they archive all of their shows and matches on Peacock, you can see him on Peacock, but there was this strict, like, do not mention him. And, when the details all came out, a lot of their wrestlers would go on like CNN, Fox News, NBC, whatever, to basically do damage control and try to, help wrestling not lose not get a bad name, I guess. And I know wrestling is in a better place now with PR and everything, but my whole point is, you look at that situation there. WWE, even still to this day, is like, nope, we do not want to talk about him. We removed his name from our website, all those things. I just don't know, kind of like what you were saying about the NFL and kind of what I was saying about the Chiefs, if they would even want to acknowledge this if he were to get voted in. Is this like I just think at the end of the day, do voters consider that kind of thing?
So they're not supposed to.
They're not supposed to. You're right.
Yeah, by the letter of the law, they're only supposed to, the bylaws, that is, not, an actual important law. These are just the rules for the Hall of Fame voters. So let's not, calling it the law seems a little rich. But at the same time, like, but by the letter of their bylaws, it's only supposed to be considering on the field, contributions. Off the field or away from the game situations, whether positive or negative, aren't supposed to be considered. And supposedly the selectors are, subject to some level of discipline if they do take those things into account. Which, how you prove that, I couldn't tell you. But regardless, like, I think that it's to pretend that you don't weigh a level of the off the field in that sort of a thing, especially in a sports landscape that has, Major League Baseball, for example. They have their like character clause or whatever that, is the reason like Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame, right? Even though he has the most hits of anybody in, the history of the sport. Like, it's the same sort of deal. Well, not exactly the same, obviously. He just bet on his own game, so it's a way different. But you get what I'm saying.
But like they hold that against him.
Yeah. And like, the fact that the MLB is, league wise, technically one of the compatriots of the NFL, or competitors, however you want to look at it. I think that writers look at it kind of the same way. It's not like you have a completely different mentality if you're a football writer, where you're like, yeah, we're okay. We're just gonna keep it on the field stuff. Any of the off the field, like, yeah, in theory, I get where they're coming from, but like, I just don't see it. Yeah, the outside will absolutely trickle in. And also, it's a guy that, let's be honest, I'm guessing a lot of these writers never saw play either. By all accounts, was a stud left tackle. But like, how many of these voters actually have seen how that was on tape? Like, this guy blocked for Len Dawson.
Yeah.
Like, and that's, it's a long time ago.
I was going to ask you, like, who else do you think from the Chiefs should be in the Hall of Fame? Because to me, it'd be Ed Buddy, 100% should be, and he's not, and Otis Taylor. And
Otis Taylor, for sure.
I think, the more time goes on, I think the less and less likely it is that those guys get in. I think another guy that maybe some of these current writers or voters, I should say, who are, I mean, they're writers and voters that might be, I mean, they should be familiar with this guy, is Deron Cherry. I think those are the three Chiefs, as well as Tyrer, but we know it's likely he's not going to get in. But those three guys should be in. Is there like another former Chief that you think absolutely should be in the Hall of Fame but isn't right now?
Not that comes immediately to mind. I mean, like, there's a few that I'm sure will be in there before long. I mean, the one that I think is going to be an interesting case, and I don't think he's actually been up for voting yet, has he? Is Jamal Charles?
You're right. I don't think his 5 years. When did he retire?
I don't know when he officially retired, but I will find out.
Because he did an interview on TMZ a few years ago, and it says 2019. So yeah, he should be eligible. I think this past year was his first year of eligibility. But yeah, he did an interview on TMZ, and he mentioned that there are some guys in the Hall of Fame, and he has better numbers than those guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, he does have the highest yard per carry average in NFL history, unless that's been
And when
broken.
you consider the no, I'm pretty sure he still does.
Okay.
But you consider the offensive lines and the teams that he was on when he did that too. That's the other piece. Like I'll put it this way: if you put him on this Chiefs team or any of the Mahomes era Chiefs teams, and he's got that sort of yards per carry average, people are going to write it up, be like, "Well, yeah, of course he's going to have that sort of production because people are worried about Mahomes beating them over the top or something like that." No, this was the focal point of the offense, and he was still putting up almost 5 yards a carry or something ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
and just okay offensive lines where he was literally the one good thing we had on a lot of those teams. So I will absolutely pound the table for that guy all day, every day. I mean, I would put him in kind of the same way Gale Sayers is in, which is to say, he short career, but incredibly impressive while he was there. Like the highs were so high, and unfortunately, a career shortened by injury the same way. Yeah, he deserves in there.
I'm looking at 2014, which was the year the Chiefs had no touchdown passes to a wide receiver, which is funny, but because 2 years before that, KU had no touchdown passes to a wide receiver, and then 2 years later, the Chiefs do it. Like, how did that happen? Two teams, one in the college level, one in the pro level, within 40 minutes of each other, and it just happens a couple of years apart. It's just weird, but
Weiss,
I'm looking at
Weiss was in Kansas City before he was at KU, right?
Correct. He was there in 2010,
Okay.
went to Florida in 2011, and then went to the Jayhawks in 2012.
All
yeah.
right, there it was. I was about to say, like, well, it could have just been the same OC, but nope.
Actually, I do have, as great of a job Weiss did as an OC, I do have questions about why the hell Jamal Charles got fewer carries than Thomas Jones that year. That made no sense at all. I don't know if that was a Weiss issue or a Haley issue, or maybe we'll never know. But anyway, I'm looking at 2014. Jamal Charles, he only had 291 receiving yards. For some reason, I thought he had more than that. Because he was like one of the more reliable pass catchers for the Chiefs that year, because Dwayne Bowe was dropping touchdowns in the end zone. He fumbled on his way going to the end zone. And I remember Travis Kelce picking that fumble up, and he was not happy, but he wanted a wide receiver to get it. But Jamal did co-lead the team in touchdown catches that year. So yeah, his
statistically, like, he is an interesting case. Like, it's does he have all of the counting stats? No. But I don't think that, if they're going strictly by counting stats, and what I mean by that is the one where it's just, literally guys like Frank Gore, right, who definitely deserves, based on longevity and just consistency over time, I would say that he eventually gets a nod for the Hall of Fame as well. But, if you're only going for the sheer accumulation of stats, then Derrick Henry is going to be the last running back to make the Hall of Fame ever. Like, they're going to have to tweak the way they treat running, because running backs, they have their brief, time in the sun. They get run into the ground, and then it's on to the next one. It's a brutal way that position works in today's NFL, but that's just the reality. And so, I think that they will absolutely be having to do things like, all right, so yards per carry average, things like that. I think that's the sort of thing that eventually comes into play. Do I think that Jamal gets in, obviously, on first ballot? No, because that would be this year. But, I think in a few years, that case gets made.
Because I was going to say Jamal Charles and Eric Berry, who they played together for several years. If those two guys weren't hurt, and I know Eric Berry had some health issues as well, man, if those guys stayed on the field and didn't have any issues, they would have had some great numbers. Maybe not, all-time best at their respective positions, but I think enough to get into the Hall of Fame. One commenter, Daniel, said Christian Okoye should be in the Hall of Fame. That's actually a really interesting one. I think, again, kind of similar with Jamal Charles and Eric Berry. Maybe the longevity is not there for Okoye because he got into the NFL at a little bit of a late age and also dealt with injuries on the tail end of his career. And I think that might be what prevents him to ever getting in. But boy, if he played and was healthy for about 3 more years, man, I think he's definitely a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. But unfortunately
Yeah.
not the case.
But beyond that, I mean, like, I think that there's a little, a little dry spell there for Kansas City a little bit. Yeah, in terms of like potential Hall of Famers. I mean, we've got on this ballot, Jared Allen is on. He's up for it this year. We don't know if he's getting in, but he's on the ballot. That could be some fun. He was a great player to watch. Always enjoyed watching him play. But then, like, you look forward from there. Outside of Jamal, like, I think you kind of wait until 5 years after Kelsey retires. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
Like that'll be your next one, probably. I mean, Justin Houston, maybe.
I think you're right. No, I do. Yeah, maybe Justin Houston, maybe Tamba Hawley gets considered, but yeah, I think you're right. It's
like,
maybe Derek Johnson.
Oh, that's one that. Yeah, he absolutely deserves more. Like, I just forget about him because he was just like, he wasn't a stats monster. He wasn't the one guy you always had to just game plan for. But no, he was so good. Like, he just did everything well, and he was great pass defending linebacker too in his day. Like, just.
I got one last question before we get out of here. Have you seen the Chiefsaholic documentary?
I haven't yet. It's on my watch list, but I haven't gotten it done yet.
It's interesting. I'll just say this because I should turn that down. I'll say this. It's like a filmmaker's dream to do this documentary because shit was happening while they were filming.
That's wild.
Yeah. It honestly, like, the people involved in that documentary, that had to have been like a dream to do. I will say this: there is one fan that is just that they interview who is weird. I'll let you figure it out for yourself, but this person's taking a lot of shit on social media.
Yeah, without knowing exactly the details there, I'll reserve comment, but let's be honest, the super fans, there's always a level of crazy. Let's be real. Did we think that it was a bank robbery kind of crazy? No. But hey, I guess it happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen anymore.
Minor spoiler alert. They do kind of acknowledge the craziness of our super fans at the beginning of the documentary. I'm like,
that's fair.
I was kind of hoping they would avoid that, but they spent like 10 seconds on it. So yeah. Daniel says one of the craziest documentaries he's ever seen. Dude, it really does feel like a movie. It kind of does feel like an action movie, which everyone's calling this whole thing a movie.
Real. But if you were to draw that up as a script for, even just like, one of those cop TV shows, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure the writers would be like, that's ridiculous. There's no way. Like, this can only be real life because, no one would have thought that that's the sort of thing that would actually happen.
Yeah.
I mean, now it ought to be a good episode of Law and Order or something, but yeah.
I was actually sick for some of the holiday. So when it came out, I woke up in the middle of the night coughing, and it was one of those things where I just couldn't sleep. I'm like, you know what? Because I found out the documentary dropped at 2 a.m. Central Time. I'm like, fuck it. If I can't sleep, I'm just gonna watch this shit.
Might as well.
And it was the wildest thing to watch, especially in the middle of the night.
I'm gonna have to get that done. It's been on my watch list for a while. It's just, that's a long list at this point.
Yeah. Oh, I hear you, dude. Dude, I'm telling you right now, like, when football season ends, people are like, oh, I miss football. Not me, dude. Because I'm dedicated so much to all the football commentary and everything, the content. Dude, when football season ends, I am knocking things
catch up on everything else.
Yes. I'm behind on Star Wars. I'm behind on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I got some shit to catch up on.
To be fair, they just keep pumping out content. It is hard to keep up with.
That is true. That is true. I'll catch up one of these days. Zach, I appreciate you coming on, man. It's always fun doing these with you. It's spoiler alert: the Chiefs are going far, so we'll have to do this one more time before the postseason comes to an end. In the meantime, before you get out of here, how can people catch you on social media?
Yeah, just at ZSteginga on Twitter. I mean, I guess technically the same works on Instagram, but I don't use that. So, you're welcome to follow me, but there's nothing to see. So,
all right.
Twitter, on the other hand, that's where I go to watch the world burn or comment when the Chiefs are doing dumb things or great things. Depends.
All right, Zach. Appreciate you, man. Always good talking to you. Good catching up as well. And we'll do this again sometime.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate it. That is Zach Stegging joining me here on the Chiefs Zone podcast. Just a quick reminder what's coming up for you guys this week. Tomorrow, Farscast, Melody and I are going to be back at it. Melody told me she watched the documentary and she wants to recap that on the podcast. So she's going to discuss it. And I'll ask her some questions because we've gone over it with Eddie already. But yeah, she'll definitely have some things to say, I'm sure. And we got some other things to go over on Farscast as well. So check us out tomorrow. That's going to start at 8:30 Central Time, and then Thursday, the Chiefs Zone is back. We will break down the game between the Chiefs and Texans. I'll give you my score prediction. Red Friday live chat Friday evening, and then Saturday pregame live chat, halftime live stream, and the postgame podcast as soon as the game goes final. All of that this week for you guys. So check all of that out this week. My name is Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Take care.